Hello everyone, welcome to this video of IT Sensei, and today in this video we will be talking about C# programming language and .NET framework. So C# programming language, to start coding in C#, first we need is Visual Studio. I hope you can get Visual Studio from the website of Microsoft. It is pretty easy to get it from there. You can just go ahead and click on the downloads, and then please download the community edition because it is obviously free, but for other versions you might need to pay, or you might need to start your free trial. After downloading, then you will get a Visual Studio installer. I have already downloaded, so I will not download it. Let me show you how Visual Studio installer looks like. So this is the general interface of Visual Studio installer, and here you can obviously install your Visual Studio in the available section. I also have a preview one, this one 17.13.0, but I'm going with 17.10.5. Okay, so you can obviously go ahead and do that. And another thing you need to tick over here is to do C# development. You obviously need to tick this option in this window. So this is .NET desktop development, which include console application, Windows presentation foundations, and some Windows Form applications also. You can obviously take ASP.NET also, because in future videos we'll be also diving deep into ASP.NET and its core things. Okay, so let me just launch it. You can obviously launch it from after you have installed it. So I will create a new project. And for now, we won't be creating any Blazor apps or something like that, something crazy. We'll be going for a basic console application. I know console applications are a little bit boring, but it is what it is. So let's get started. And you can name it anything like mm, one shot. This is one shot video, so you'll be getting all of the tutorials in this one video for C#. Okay, so I will be choosing .NET 8.0, and let's wait for a while. So after it has created, so I mistakenly created a Visual Basic one. So let me do that again. Project. Sometimes we need to see if it is C# or not. Okay, so it is now C#. One such video. Okay. Uh, you need to check if it is the C# or not. So we are in the C sharp now. This is not, this is they will give you some boilerplate code. We'll just remove it, and now we'll be looking at the first structure, how the C sharp program is structured. Obviously we need to use something known as using over here, and we need to use different type of namespaces which include some of the functions and some of the objects which we will be using uh, in console applications. After that, we have namespace. We can create a namespace. You don't really need to create namespace, but here I'm creating a namespace. So programs, I will be naming it as a programs, and then inside that I can just make a class program, and then inside that I will be having my main function like this. So now diving a little bit deep into here is, if you are new to programming, then this video might not be very good, is suited for you, but it is what it is. So we are creating, this is a class because this is an object oriented programming language. We need to create a class for everything. It is similar to Java if you have done Java, or if you have done other object oriented programming languages. So this is a main class, and inside main class we have our main function. So main function is by default static, and we'll be diving deep into static in later part in this video. So after that, now we'll be printing something into the screen. So let me just write console dot write line, and inside this console dot write line we can just print hello world. That is the easiest thing we can do. Now over here, you can click over here in order to run this. and you can see the output right over here. So now talking a little bit about namespaces. Namespaces, you can obviously think namespaces as a collection of classes. So you can put a lot of classes inside of it. Likewise, now inside this namespace, I have one class. I can create another class in this namespaces called add class, or whatever class I need to create. So I can include multiple classes inside one namespace. So that is the concept here. So it is like a collection of classes, or you can just create a collection of functions also. Yeah, you can just do anything with the namespaces. Okay, so in order to use these specific namespaces, you need to use this using keyword and obviously system for over here. And if you click into this system thing, then it you can just see it's a namespace. That's easy. Okay, so after this, this is a first simple program, nothing very complex, nothing very strange. It's easy. Now after that, we will be moving a little bit into, so we will be moving into writing comments, one of the thing which we do in all the programming language, and it is similar to most of the programming language. You just put double slashes and you can start commenting over here. And likewise that for multi-line comments, you obviously need like this, and you can comment it into multiple lines. Isn't that cool? I think it's cool. It's similar to all of the programming languages. So after that, these are how you can obviously create comments. Now we'll be moving into how can we create variables in C Sharp. Now in modern C Sharp, you can obviously create variables using var. So var name, then you can just write hello world. And you can also create another variable called var number, like 1 2 3 4 5. Or we can also create var deci number, and you can just write something decimal, and you can just end it like that. So this is how you can actually create variables in C Sharp, but this is new method, and yeah, you can obviously use this method also. But if you want type safety, then you obviously need to write the name of data types like int number, number one, 1 2 3, like this. You are creating a variable of an integer, and likewise that if you want for string, then string name one, I will write name one, and hello, I will only write hello over here. And likewise that I can further move down and create a float also. Float and deci number one, then 1 2 3 dot something like that. And if you give it like that, then you obviously need to write f behind this because it's a float. So you need to write f behind this. So this way you can create variables very easily. But if you want type safety means it is like safe. Now you cannot enter, let's say, like string inside here. It will give you error. But here in this number thing, I can just add strings also. It actually works. So let me just print all of this and show you the output. Let's do for name, and let's do for number, and let's do for deci number. Okay. Mm, name one, number one, and deci number. Okay. Let me just run it, and you can see the output. It's pretty straightforward. But here, as you can see, when using var keyword, you are actually you can actually use various type of things over there. Okay, so that is a simple thing which is in Sharp. And there are other types of data types you can obviously use, like char data types, which are like characters. So like alpha, and you can just write something like a. Okay, and these are in single quotation, but the strings are in double quotation. We need to remember that always, because it is one of the type safe languages. So yeah. It is what it is. Now, after that, and we can also create booleans by just writing bool. Let's say my bool, and this you can just give it value of false, or you can obviously give it value of true. Okay, simple as that. And these are some of the data types. You can obviously do it from this method, or you can do it from that method. That totally depends on you. Okay. So these are some of the data types which are primary data types if you want to start working in C Sharp. Okay. So now after we created variables, we can obviously change the value of variables. So let's say like this number 123, I can just change it to like 987. And then if I run it, then the value of number will be 987. So if I don't want this one to be modified, then I can make it as a constant by giving a const keyword. Okay. So after I give it a const keyword, you can see it doesn't work. It is giving me error. Okay. So it is giving me error because I cannot write the value of these things, rewrite the value of these things. Okay. So we can obviously do these things. Now, other things we can do is concatenation. So if I want to add world behind this, then I can just concatenate with just a plus symbol and just write hello world. And if I run it, then it will it will join hello and world, both of them right here. So those are the some of the things we can obviously perform in C Sharp. And if you want to create multiple variables, let's say if I want to create a multiple string, then I don't need to copy and paste it below. I can just give it a comma and just do like name2, then something like world. You can just make multiple variables using same nine. And instead of writing this world, I will just concatenate with the help of name2. And after I have done that, then if I run it, then it still works. So those are some of the concept in C Sharp and other languages also. So other data types, if we start talking about data types, then for float, we also have something known as double. Double is also like float. So it's also a desi number, but it's a long desi number. Okay. So it's a long decimal number. So something like this. And let's give it F. So we can obviously use this thing instead of here, and it actually works. This is the long desi number. And right now it is not printing everything. So it is actually not printing its value because in double we don't actually need F. If we put F, then it will just concatenate. It will just make it smaller. And as you can see, the value is over here. Okay. So this is double, and for integer also we can make something known as long, then long number long, then something like this. And if we check it, then it actually works. Okay. So these are some of the basic data types we actually need to know in order to work in C Sharp. So it is what it is. Now after that, we obviously need to know how to typecast from one data type to another data type. So I will just remove all of these and start for the typecasting. So now if we see about how can we typecast into something that is not a type. So I will make some variables like int I equals to, let's say 1, 2, 3. And I will also make a char for C and for A. Okay. So, and I will also make it for a long, and long L would be obviously I. So it actually directly it implicitly typecast I into L. So we don't actually need to typecast I into L. Okay, so it directly converts I integer into a long, or it can directly convert integer into double, or it can directly convert integer into float also. So if you are converting from, let's say, uh, float, I will just add comment over here. If you are converting from char or int or float or double, if you are converting from these, then you actually don't need, it will typecast it automatically. Okay, so if you are converting it from char to int, it actually can convert it into char character into an integer. But if you want to convert integer into character, then it doesn't work. As you can see, if you want to convert integer into character, it doesn't work. It's not working over here. Okay, so like this it doesn't work. But if you want to convert, let's say, like this character into an integer in char, and you can just give it c uh, chr. Okay, it can actually convert this character into this integer. Do you get it? I think so. Console.writeLine, if we print the value of chr, then it will give us the value like 65. 65 is the value of a. And if we keep on going, then it will reach to another one. So up to, if we go for small a, then we can see the value is obviously 97. So it's like that. So we can actually convert this into this and this into this and this into this, or we can convert like that. Okay, so you might be thinking like, can we convert it into double directly? It actually works. You can convert from here to here. So it actually converts it implicitly. So this is obviously known as implicit type casting. Now for explicit typecasting, let's say like explicit typecasting, we have exact formula, but it's opposite. Let's put this double over here, and I will just copy this thing, put it over here. One, two, three, I think two. And let's put this float over here, and let's put this int over here, and let's put this char over here. So for these types of this type of casting, we actually need to use explicit one. Now, what is exactly explicit? So this the above example obviously shows us implicit type casting. Now let's see some explicit one. So if I have let's say like integer I, and let me just give it something like 1 to 3 value, or let me just give it like a 97 value. Okay, so integer I1, or integer, let's give it like e for explicit one. So integer e is this. Now if I want to convert it into a character, let's say like c1, then I obviously need to do, I cannot convert it implicitly, it doesn't work. It obviously says cannot implicitly convert integer to character. So I obviously need to write int over here. Sorry, not int, char over here. So it typecast it explicitly. This is how you can typecast it into explicit way. Okay. So if I run it, then it should give me, oh, I'm not printing it. It should actually give me a, I think. So the right line, not a, c1. Okay, let's see the value of c1. And it is a. So in this way, if you want to convert from double to float, or float to int, or int to char, then you need to use explicit one. But for this one, you don't actually need to mention any data type in front of it. So I want this integer to be converted into characters, so I use that. So these are two type of casting we can obviously perform in C#. So now after this, we can move into something known as taking user input. So if you want to take user input, let's say like you want to ask your user what is their name, then we can just write something like console.writeLine and say enter your name. And then you can just make a variable, let's say like var, or you can just give it a string, because you obviously know it will be in string format. So string, let's say like name, then I will do something known as console.readLine. Readline is for taking user input and storing it into string variable. Okay, and I can obviously give it as an out interior name. Let's say like sensei, oh, and it is printing me the value over there. So you can actually read the value with the help of console.readline. After reading the value, you can obviously perform various type of operations with it. So it's pretty cool. Now let's make a simple calculator. But before making that calculator, we will be going towards other things called operators. So let's see. So the normal operator is, let's say like 10 plus 10 is 20. So I can just write console.writeLine x, then it just gives me the 20 value. So it is like addition. And if I do subtraction, and I can do multiplication also, I can do division also, I can do modulus operation also, which is obviously known as remainder. So if I do something like 11 more modulus 10, then it should be returning me 1, because 1 is the remainder of that operation. So let's see, and 1 is our remainder. So that is how it works. Now there are other things we can see in operators. Some of them are increment operator, which I think is important. So if I do something like x plus plus, then what it is doing is x equals to x plus 1. It is doing this by default, this operation by default. So it is actually increasing this value of x by 1. So if I run it, then the value becomes 12, because it just increases its value by 1. If I do it multiple times, and it can just increase the value multiple times, also 17. Okay, so these are some of the operators, and you can obviously do something like x minus minus also. If you do that, then it will decrement it. Okay, now if you see in some code, then you might be also seeing something like minus minus x. This means if I try to print this, let me just try to print this. If I print this, then it will give me the value 10. It doesn't subtract it. It actually subtracts it. It is a post increment, but it actually subtracts it and prints it over here. But if I do something like this, then it just prints it first, then only it subtracts it. So it's like 11 over here, and it just subtracts afterwards. It is printed. So that is post increment and post decrement, or pre-increment or pre-decrement. Okay, so those are some of these simple concepts which we also have in other programming languages. So yeah, now after that, we have some of the comparison operators. So we'll be also going to some of the comparison operators. Let me say like I have y, and let me just give it 11. So I can do something like this. Then this means x is equal to y. We need to use double equals to, because if we use single equals to, then it will assign the value to x. But here we don't want it to assign, we just want it to check if x is equal to y, then it will show us true. But if it is not equal, let's say if we have something like 12, then it is false. Okay, now after that, mm, there is not equals to also. So this means x is not equals to y. So obviously x is equals to y. So if we run it, then it is giving us false. But if we do something like this, then x is not equals to y. So it is actually true, and it is giving us true. And we can also check if it is bigger than, if x is bigger than y, obviously it's true. Or we can obviously check if x is less than y also, like this, false. And we can also do something like bigger or equals to. So if it is equal like this, then it would return true. And if it is bigger like this, greater like this, then it is also true. Now, these are some of the comparison operators, and we can obviously use logical operators also. There are some of the logical operators also, but I think we will be diving deep into logical operators in further videos. Now we will be moving on to some of the, before moving into anything else, we will be moving into some of the functions, some of the methods which are available by default in system use namespace or in CSAR, which are built into the CSAR. So one of its main function, main objects or main classes is Mac function, Mac class. So we can obviously use mat. So if I say something like mat and just head dot, and let's say I can just do something like max. And if I want to check maximum value from these two, let's say like I have something like this, something like this. So if I want to check what are the maximum values, then I can obviously check it over here by using this thing called mat.max. And obviously this one is the maximum value. Now if we see inside here, there's this max function. When I control and click this max function, then I can see it is a static one. It is a static method, and it is inside mat.csr folder. So if we go all the way up, I think we can see, okay, here it is. The class is mat and it is also static, and the function which we were accessing called max was also static, so we can obviously use it like this. So we will be discussing about this in later videos when we will be diving deep into object orientation. So yeah. And likewise, max, we also have something known as mini to check the minimum value. It's pretty cool. You can see if this is the minimum value over there. So we don't have to write our own logic. And another thing we have is sqrt. So that is for square root. So if you want to find square root of, let's say, 234, then it should actually work. And it is in point format. But if we are trying to access square root of, let's say, -1, which is obviously imaginary, then it is giving us nan, which means not a number. So it's an imaginary. It's a complex number. So let's go with the normal number. Let's go with some real numbers. And after that, we also have another function called, let's say, console.writeLine. Mm. We also have something like mac dot. Also have tau. This same tau later. So these are all of the things which we can obviously do, but I will be going to some of the interesting ones like the max magnitude. Now we can go for pow. Pow is for adding powers. Let's say I have 2 over here, and I want to find the cube of 2. Okay, so cube of 2. This means 2's power 3. So it should be 8. Obviously, this is how you can find the powers in math. And now, other thing you can do is you can obviously do something like this also. Mhm. Mac dot, you can obviously find the absolute value also. This means if you have something like -1, then it will be converting this thing into positive. Okay, so it's 1. So if you have something like this, if you want the absolute value, or if you want the modulus value, or if you want the positive value, then you can do this. Or if it is like positive by default, then it will keep on making it positive. So yeah, you can do that. And another interesting thing we can obviously use over here is mat.round. Round is also pretty popular. Console.writeLine mat.round. It is for rounding the values. So if we have something like this, it's a very long value. So if we want to round it, then it just rounds it to 23. Last one is 23. But if I have something like 6, let's see what it does, then it goes for 24. Okay, something like that. It actually rounds up the values. And you can obviously use there are two order functions you can use for rounding. There is one for seal ceiling. Ceiling is the top value, so it will always give you 24, which is top value. And you can also do something like let's say it is like 2, then if you run it, then it will always give you 24, the top value. And for bottom value you can just use floor, and it will give us 23, the bottom value. So these are some of the math functions we can obviously use, and there are a lot of functions if we start diving deep into this math world. And you can obviously find acos, hypotenuse, then hyperbola, hyperbolic, yeah, hyperbolic cosine. Then you can obviously get the sine hyperbolic, then beat decrement, ceiling, clamp. You can obviously use clamp also with a specific range. Cos hyperbolic, equals is also pretty uh, useful, but it is like a more of an object thing, so we'll be diving into that later. Okay, so those were some of the math function. Now we'll be going in some of the string functions, string methods. Okay, we'll be using word methods morely because it's it's object oriented programming. So yeah. So let me just write string a and say hello. Now let's do some of the modifications to this, and let's learn some of the string properties and methods. So the first property I would like to show you is the length. So if you want to find the length of this string, then just write a dot length, then it's 5. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we can just find the length of string like that. So if you want to convert this string into uppercase, then we can just do something like to upper. And if you are noticing, the first word is always capital, because in C sharp, we obviously make the first letter of any methods capital. But in other languages like Java, then we will be making it like small, because in Java, only small works. So it just converts it into capital one. Okay. So if we have something like, let's say, mm, capital hello, then we can do something like to lower, and it will make it low. Okay. So these are some of the string methods we can use. And I think we have obviously learned about string concatenation. So if I want to make, let's say, like string C, then I can do A plus B, then it will obviously join both of those. It will obviously join both of those. So hello, hello. Okay. So these are the things we can use. Or there is a specific functions. If you want to do it in an method way, then you can just use the string dot concat and just give like a comma b. It's similar to Java. Java also have a concat method. You can use plus operator also. You can use string dot concat also. Both uses uh yeah, both uses same thing. Okay. But if you only want to join to string, then it's better to use concat, because if you use add symbol, then it might also trigger some arithmetic expressions. Okay. So diving more deep into strings, we also have string interpolation, and this is one of the features most of the people like, because a lot of people like it. And yeah, it's also available in programming language like C sharp. So not C sharp, in JavaScript. So first, F FRIST first. Oh, FIRST first. First name. Let's say my first name is Oracle, and my last name is string. Last name is obviously Java. Okay. So if I need to do something like make a string, make a sentence out of it, then I can just write like name, then not adding those. We will be learning a new trick, and that is putting a dollar symbol and using double quotation. And we can, after doing this, we can write something like name, my name is, and inside here, I can put curly braces and directly insert my variable over here. So I don't actually need to use concat, or I don't actually need to use the addition symbol. I can just write like this and last name. Okay, pretty cool. And then I can just print it, not first name. I will be printing the last name, which is name. This is the string interpolation we can do, and there are other type of string interpolation we can obviously perform. So we don't actually need to write. We can actually write directly inject our variables inside the string instead of using some weird plus symbol or some weird string.concat methods. Okay. So strings also, talking about strings are basically array of characters. So strings are basically array of characters. So you might be thinking, what is an array? Array is a collection of various data types. So let's say like I have something like in comment, we'll just write O R A C L A. So this is like a collection of character data types. So this is how string works. So we can actually access specific index of string using the same one we use in arrays. So first name, I can just go for tree. Then if I run, then it should give me C. Okay, you can see it starts from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if we give something like 0, then it should be returning us. Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. But now talking about strings, if we want to find specific characters in string, then what can we do? That's an interesting thing we can do. So I can just write something like first name dot let's say I can just write something like index of, and index of is, let's say I want to know the index of C, then I can just, okay, so index of C. Now it will give me the index of C, which is obviously 3. So I can find characters inside string also. So this is some things which we can play in strings. Now, there's one last thing we need to talk about strings before moving into the next part. That is, let's say I'm just writing it's, something like it's, and I want to give something like double quotation inside of it, then it obviously gives me error like this. Or I can say, mm, if I want to, let's say like it's something like that, then it is actually giving me error. So I can actually use my backslash in order to prevent error. So it will ignore this part here and it will go for the end quotation over here. Okay. So that is this thing we need to understand. If we put it like that, then it will end string over here. Okay, it will end string over here. But if we don't want it to end over here, then we can just put a backslash, then it will just ignore it. Now we can see we can actually print this double quotation also. Okay, that's also a pretty cool thing to do. And there are other things like you can just using backspaces, you can do something like it's hello world. You can just do something like slash n to go to the next line, go to next line, and slash 2t to hit a tab. So it has a tab space over here, and B for backspace. So it will just backspace it. Okay. So it should remove O. So these are some of the escape sequences which we can use it. So after this, we can obviously move towards other type and C sharp. Now, other thing we need to learn is if else statement. Okay, so it's like if, and you have else, and you can just write some if else statement over here. If else statement, let's say if I have something like int x equals to 10 and y equals to 10, then I can just say if x is double equals to y, then perform this operation. Okay, so perform both are equal, and in else part I can obviously do like console dot write line, then write not equal. Pretty interesting. If I run it, both are equal right now. Now if I change the value, then we can see it is not equal, and I can do something like bigger if x is bigger than 12. So it's like a the comparison operators we studied above. It's similar to those. Okay, so if I want to put something like I can put two conditions also. Let's say int g is 10, then I can just do something like and operations. So it's like an and operation, logical and operation, and I can just do something like x as double equals to z. So this means both of these should be true in order to become this whole statement to be true. Okay, so both of these should be true in order to make this whole statement true. That is how it works. So if I have something like 12, then it should actually print me both are equal, both are equal. But if this is, let's say, 11, this is true, but this is not true because x is not equals to 0. So it will actually say not equal. But if you want to make it something like OR operation, there is also an OR operation. This means either this need to be true, this need to be true, we don't care. Only one need to be true. So only one need to be true. That's cool. But if we have something like 13 and if we put here 12, then this one is true, but this one is false. It actually still works. So this is an OR operation we need to learn about. And the else part is like else. And we also have else if. So if we want to extend if statements, then we can just put else if also here. Ah, else if, and we can put this thing over here instead of here, and we can say x and g are equal, x is big. Okay, let me run it. X and g are equal, but x is not big. But if I put it something like 13 or 134, then it will say x is big. But if I just put it like 134, then it will check this statement first. If this statement proves to be right, then it will skip all of the other statements. Okay, same like that, x is big, that's all. Okay, so these are some of the basic functions we can do. And programming language, you can use if else statement. These are very popular and it's pretty easy also. Now, this is pretty um, good, but we can obviously use ternary operators also. What do I mean by ternary operators, you might be asking. So let's say like int, not int, let's say like char, not char also. Let me just make a string, check. I will just make it a variable as check, and I can just make it a string, let's say x double equals to y, and I can make a question mark symbol. So if this condition is true, then it will say true, or not true, equal. Otherwise, it will say not equal. Okay, like this. So string check, then it will assign the value to this based on this condition. So if x equal x is equal to y, then equal will be assigned to check. If x is not equals to y, then not equal will be assigned to check. So this is also known as ternary operator, and it's pretty famous also. So I can just print check, and you can see it's not equal. But if I put something like 2 for, then it's actually should be equal, but it's for G. I need to check it for G. Let's see. Okay, it is equal. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We can obviously use these things. Okay. Hmm. So now another type of conditional statement is switch. Switch is also pretty cool because you can just add something like x into the switch, and you can just make a case for switch. Let's say like for case 0, it would be console.writeLine, it's 0, and for let's say, and ooh, ooh, we can obviously break it. Okay, and we can just make other condition also. Case 1 can just say it's 1 and break it. So we actually need to write break statement in order to use switch. And for case 2, we can just write console.writeLine. It's 2. Okay. And now there might be some condition. It might not match all of these. So we can put something known as default. For default means if none of these cases match, then it will just say it's not paying. Okay. And we can see like hmm, control final label. Yeah, final label, something like that. Okay. Like, okay. So we can say now it will check if x is equals to 0, then it will print this thing and break the switch, and it will check if x is equals to 1, then it will print this. If x is equals to 2, then it will print this. If x is except these three conditions, then it will print this one. Now if I run it, it's 124, so it will say it's nothing. But if I have something like 1 over here, then it will say it's 1. Okay, so it's not only for integers. You can obviously use for strings also, string characters and other data types also. You can freely use it. Okay, so this is switch statement. It's pretty famous. Now, after finishing switch, we have looping statements. Looping means it will keep on repeating that specific piece of block until the condition is not met. Okay, until the condition is met. So if I would say let's a equals to 1, and then I can just write something known as while loop. Okay, so in while loop, I can just something say like if a is bigger than if a is less than 5, then it can just you can just print console.writeLine a like this, and that's all. And we actually need to write and increment things, so it just keeps on increasing after it just keeps on repeating this code. So it just keeps on saying a plus plus. So at first it will start from a is 1, so a is less than 5, 1 is less than 5, that's true. So it will go inside this block and it will increase the value of a and make it 2. So it is 2 mm, is 2 less than 5, it's true. So it just keeps on doing this until it reaches to the value 5. Okay, so as you can see, 1 2 3 4. It doesn't go up to 5 because the condition doesn't meet whenever a is equals to 5. So if we put something like equals to, then it will go up to 5. So this is while loop. We won't be spending a lot of time on while loops and these things. These are similar to other languages, so you guys might be familiar with it. So we also have a for loop. In for loop, we can just, it's also similar to while loop, but you have the initialization and condition and the increment operator in the same line. So it will initialize it as a 0 and it will be less than a and I plus plus like that. Okay. So now I can just write console.writeLine I, just print I, and let me just put it up to 5. So it will initialize it as 0 and it will keep on looping until this condition is true. And after completing one loop, then it will increment its value to another one. Okay, so it will increase the value. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's pretty cool. Okay, so this is how our for loop works. Okay, that's a lot of things to cover. But now we'll be looking into some of the we also have a third type of loop, which is known as for each loop. This is quite popular. Obviously, most of the people use this type of loop. So string, let me just make a string. Now we'll be making an array. Okay, so let's make an array. Let's say like I have string of mobile. Okay, and inside that string, I can give multiple value of that string. So let me say something like Samsung and Apple and Motorola and yeah, like this you can put the multiple values inside one variable. Okay, so if you want to access that variable, then you can just write something like mobile, and if you want to access the, if you want to get the length of this thing, then it's similar to what we did in string. It works. It's free. The length is free. 1, 2, 3. Now, if we want to access the value of Samsung, then we can give it 0. So it also starts from 0, like similar to string. Okay, pretty cool. Now, talking about for each loop, let's talk about for each loop. So for each, inside for each loop, we can just write something like string, string, uh, mob in mobile. So this means it will just keep on looping all of those things. And every element, let's say like the at first loop, at first iteration, first repetition, Samsung will be printed, and after that, Apple will be printed, Motorola will be printed, and they will be assigned to value called mob. So if I just keep on doing a loop to this mob, then it will give me the value of all of the elements inside this array, as you can see. So this is how a for loop actually works. So it's, you just say, I have string mob, and then inside mobile, I want you to get this out of here and store it into mob and print it. And after that repetition, we want Apple to get out of here and store it into mob, then print the value of Apple. Likewise, that for Motorola, I want it to get out of my loop, sorry, my array, then store it into mob, and I can just print it. You can actually do anything with these things. So you actually need to really practice it if you want to be good in programming. So that's it. Okay. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. We have learned. So talking about arrays, this is a way we can create array. Okay, so this is a way we can create array. You can actually create array like this also and assign it later also. Assign it later like mobile, and you can just assign it single by single. But in order to do this, you obviously need to do something like known as create an array of string like this and give the index, let's say 5. So it will be holding the five values to that specific string, okay, to that specific array. So you are using string. Pretty cool. Now you might be thinking, what is this new keyword? In order to create some objects in C Sharp, for object-oriented programming, I will be launching another video. This is just a basic tutorial of programming into C Sharp. For object-oriented, we will be going into another video. But for this basic video, new keyword is for creating new objects. So this array is also an object. As you can see, it's a class. So through the help of class, we can actually create object. So that's how it works. Okay. Now after that, you can obviously access the value of array like this also. You can access it, you can assign it. You can do a lot of things with these arrays. That's pretty cool. Now we can obviously loop through arrays using for each loop, or you can loop through arrays using the normal for loop also. So let's say something like this, and we can just loop until mobile's length. Okay. Okay, so mobile's length, and can just put something like this. Close it. Okay, so what's happening over here is we are giving it index 0 and it just keeps on looping. Okay, so let me just add some values over here. One, sorry, one, two, Samsung, Apple, SBC. Okay, so these three brands, it will loop until the length of these things. So the length is obviously 5 by default. If you do this, Samsung Apple STC, Samsung Apple STC. You might be thinking, okay, there are some two spaces remaining. So those are because we have 5, but we only gave the value for 3. Okay, so we haven't give its value for other one. So the other two elements are empty over there. Okay, pretty cool. Now, we obviously need to learn some of the interesting things about arrays also. Let me just make an array of an integer. So ARR, and let's say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay, 5 is up to this only. I don't need a lot more than this. Okay, so this is sorted obviously. So if I have something like this, look, okay. Okay, so something like this is a value which are present over there. So if I want to print my array, then I can do something like ARR, directly giving it. You can obviously give its index like 0 and print the single value of array. But if you want to print the whole array, then you can use like this. Then it will give me, as you can see, it's a system32 system.in32's array. So you actually need to give like this one. Okay, so it's pretty cool. Then it will give you the value of 1. But instead of doing all of these things, I would just make a for each loop, which is pretty cool, to print all of the elements of an array and do the same logic which we did previously. Okay, so it just prints every element of this array. Now if you see, as you can see, it is not sorted. So if you want to sort this array, sort means sort it in ascending order, then you can obviously do something like array dot sort arr. Now it will actually sort this array, as you can see, in an ascending order. Isn't it cool? You can just sort it. Okay. So like that. Now sort is one thing you can do. You can also get some of the values through the link linq language integrated query. If you know about linq, we won't be going deep into this video, but it's a link. So if you want to use link, then you can just write something like using system dot link 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 you or link. Okay, so if I want to use link and just do some of the operation to my array, then I can do something like um arr dot arr dot. I can do length, but I can just do something known as order descending also. I can do a lot of things here. Okay, so order descending, if I do something like order descending and run it. Okay, I forgot to do one thing. Instead of doing order descending, I will just show you the max. You can do max because uh, in order descending, it will return an array. Okay, so the max value is this one, which is pretty cool, pretty true. Okay, so I will just remove this thing so we can just see the max value. Max value is that much. Now, if I want to say the mean value, uh, I can just say, oh, mean value is this much. I don't. We were using max.max, max.mean in last one, but here we can just use directly. You can also do sum. It's pretty cool. It will just add all of the numbers inside here and just return you the sum of those numbers. So, and order order by descending, these are the things you can obviously use. Order descending, if you use this thing and run it, then you will be seeing it's like enumerable. So we won't be going deep into this tutorial maybe, and other tutorials which are specifically made for link, then we'll be diving into that. Then with the help of link, we can perform a lot of things in C sharp, and it's pretty cool. I love link. Okay, most of the people like link, and we love link. Okay, so links are like that. Now, this is an one-dimensional array, but if we want to create multi-dimensional array, like what do I mean by multi-dimensional array? Might be thinking that's pretty cool. So, multi-dimensional array, you can create a jagged array using the help of comma. Let's say a, and make it up here and close it. Sorry. Inside jagged array, I can make two arrays like this. Array inside array, as you can see, array inside an array. So this is a little bit complex thing, but it's pretty cool. Now we can obviously use for each loop also inside these types of jagged array also. For each usage for each loop, and let's say like, oh, not object. Okay, so this int I in a, so int I in a, and I can just use something like console.write length, right line on soul.writeLine, and just run it. And you can see all of the elements are being printed over here. Through here also you can do like this. It's like an array inside array. Okay. So these are like multi-dimensional array. You can create 2D array. You can create all types of array. Now, if you want to get length, there's an interesting function which I think I need to teach. That is, if you want to get the length of inner array, let's say I want to get the length of this array, I have something of this. Okay, so this first array, then I can just use get length, and sorry, I let's just match. We need to match the things. Okay, so if I want to get the length of this specific array, then I can just give it 0. So it will give me the length of this inner array, not the outer array. It will give me the length of inner array, which is 2, 0, 1, 2. Okay, so like that. Okay, sorry, not 0, 1, 2, but it just gives me the uh, array of, if I write something 0, then it will give me the array of the outer array. Sorry, I forgot to tell that. If you give it 0, then it will give me the length of outer array, like this one, 1 and 2. But if I let me just copy it there and paste it over here, and if I give it something like 1, then now it will give me the inner one. Okay, so if I use 1, then it will go keep on going inside, 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 inside. Okay, like that. It's pretty cool. The inner array is 3. 0 is for the outer array, 1 is for inner array. That's pretty cool, yeah? Okay, so these are some of the basic tutorials we would be going inside. But now we will be going inside we'll be touching a little bit inside creating methods because we need to perform specific tasks and we can do it with the help of methods. So now in order to create methods, what do I mean by methods is you need to write static. For now, we'll be writing static, but it's not necessary if we are creating objects. But for now, we will be creating static and I will be writing void. And let me just write an add. Okay. So void add, and then it will say console.writeLine. Then it's say like adder. Yes, I can use that method which I create over here in my main function. So now I can use this code block inside here. Okay, that's pretty cool. See, adder, it's actually showing that. Now I can obviously pass in parameters like this, 1 and 2. This is passing it over here, and afterwards, instead of printing adder, I can just print the value of, let's say, a plus b over here. See, I can just add these values by passing it from here. So this goes over here and this comes over here and it will add it and give me the answer. Okay, see, it's giving me 3. Okay, and after that, this is the thing you can pass into these things, and you can also print like pass various types of data types into these methods and work around with this. And there is another thing we need to know, that is return type. So this means int. What does this mean? This means returning something. So instead of printing it over here, we can actually return the value. Okay, return the value. What does this mean? Return the value means we will be storing answer into here, so it will give us a value which we can store it into a variable, and then we can obviously use that variable and print our answer. So inside here we are only doing our calculation logic, and it is taking our value from here and adding it, and then it will returning it and sending it over there. So in the return type, as you can see, it's actually working. So if you give it int, then you need to return an integer. If you give it a string, then you need to return a string. Okay, if you are giving it something like void, then you don't actually need to return anything. Okay, and void, you don't actually need to return anything. This means null. Void is like null. Okay, so over here is also void, so it is actually null. And if you see over here in main function also, we also have a parameter. It's similar to these ones. Okay, but this is like an array of string. It is actually demanding for an array of string. Okay, so this is how you can represent a array of string as a parameter. Okay, guys. So why is this? This is for arguments. If you want your program to run in a specific way, then you can pass in arguments through command line, but we aren't doing it here. But if you want, you can do it. So for that, we are using these. So if you don't put this and try to run it, then it actually works. But if you want to add some parameters, then it might not work. So it's only for parameters. You can give it any name you want because this is obviously your choice. Okay, so up to here we have done the video. I think the video has been pretty long. This is a beginner's course and this is for just starting out in C Sharp, and in next video we'll be diving deep into the object oriented concept of C Sharp. Okay, little bit object oriented concept, and after that video we'll be launching some other videos, exciting videos for LinkU, ASP.NET. A lot of things are coming. And this is just a starting video. So this is a full one-shot video for a beginner to start coding in C Sharp.